Hey guys, Vince here, back again with my final Supercoach video for the season. Look, I did plan on potentially splitting these two up, but I'm just going to do them one and the same. It's going to be the round review and the season review all together. So, how did things end? Round 23, we actually had a pretty abysmal week. Felt a bit bad, didn't make the right captain option, and lost a few of my leagues. Only ended up winning one final out of all the leagues. Which was a bit unfortunate. I thought we had a really good finals run. We unfortunately lost last week, as we know, the shit team like 3 leagues, which knocked us out of quite a lot. And then I went ahead and just flunked in a lot of them. Just not a good week. And yeah, only picked up the 1 W. But yeah, 2,372. Season ranked dropped to just below 6,000. So yeah, not a good season overall. Not a terrible season, but a lot to be desired, a lot to reflect on. A lot of decisions that I don't think were wrong, but just didn't work out. And that's what the game is. It's calculated decisions. You take a decision from the best knowledge you have, on the assumption that this is the highest probability of working out for you, but that doesn't guarantee that it will at the end of the day. So looking at this, bad week. We'll jump in, have a quick look over the team, just see how it sort of went. Speaking of which, though, that Sunday night game, Carlton versus Collingwood. Oh my goodness. God, it feels good to be a Pies fan. Sneaking into 4th place, getting the top 4. That was awesome. The game, what a game. I was sitting there with my partner's younger brother, and I honestly made the comment when Cox was lining up for goal. I'm like, dude, Cox will kick this. And I reckon if he kicks this, if we get another one in the next few minutes, we're going to win this. And then Cox finishes it off. McQuarrie hits an unbelievable shot from the boundary, like just on the one step, hard angle, just pulls it right. Pulls it left, technically. I mean, just pulled it in the right way and just slipped it in. And then Elliott just securing it once again on that run. Oh my goodness. So good to be a Pies fan. I can't imagine the heartbreak of a Carlton supporter. You go down to Adelaide, you then come in and lose a game to Melbourne that you should have won, and then to lose like that to the Pies and lose your finals. Wow. I'm not trying to rub that in. That feels bad. Like, I would be so frustrated at that. Like, not even that they lost to Collingwood and Melbourne. They're two top of the table teams. Two, top 4 teams that they went head-to-head with, which shows that they were contenders at the end of the day. They just randomly flunked to Adelaide a few weeks beforehand, and honestly, that's the game where it all turned. I think on Collingwood's point of view, though, the other way around, if we didn't win that game against Essendon, that was a massive game. We really rode that momentum into the next few weeks. Like, man, we lose that game, obviously we don't make top 4, but then on top of it, the, avalanche effect that sort of rolls on from that. Do we even end up in top 8? Do we end up losing the next few games on top of that ended up being close? I'd hope not, but yeah, just crazy to think we made the run all the way through and snuck into the top 4. Just, as I said, 17th last season, did not see this coming as a Pies fan. Like, obviously you always hope, you're like, yeah, next season's our season, but wow, did not see it coming. So that was awesome. We can see the team now. Sicily came up with a great score against the Dogs. Actually, a final quarter pretty poorly. He was 95 at the half. So, only a 39-point final half, which is kind of feels bad. That's where obviously the Dogs ran away with it. Obviously, a very important game for them. Speaking of which, I love watching the video of all the Dogs watching the Pies game and going nuts when we get the win. That also feels good, man. Dawson came with a 74, bit lackluster. Sinclair, good game, 118. We expected him to get pressure from, I forget his name, from Sydney that does that, but he ended up, being able to put out a 118 with getting a bit of pressure. I don't think it was as hard as he has previously, but Sinclair just just works hard, gets through it. I didn't end up watching the end of this game. I was too hyped up. I was still going. Obviously, I watched the Collingwood game, so I missed a lot of this game. I kind of watched like the third quarter. And bits and pieces of what I heard, and Sinclair was already performing very well before that final, in the first half. So, yeah, good finish. Dale with the 83, unfortunately, did start off really strong, actually. No, he was one of the Dogs that didn't. I think it was 44 at halftime, so yeah, 39 in the second half. I guess just tracked as he was. Short 114, which is awesome to see from him. Good way to end the season after a bit of a poor second half. Crisp, not much to say with Crisp. Unfortunately, he wasn't the starter premium we wanted at the end of the day. He was durable. He played every game. Awesome. We wanted maybe 100 to 105 out of him, though, and he picked up less than 95. So, honestly, very disappointing. Can't really say much more than that. Laird, amazing. Absolute godsend. That man just was a real captain option for everyone on the back half of this year, and I really considered it against Power, but in the Derby, I just didn't know. I thought maybe Power would send someone to him, and because as much as it's an irrelevant game to them to a degree, at the same time the Derby is never irrelevant. Like, it's irrelevant to a ladder standing point of view, like it didn't really matter, but no Adelaide team ever wants to lose to the other. No, like, I guess I forget the team, like what I'm going to say here, but just rival teams. Gold Coast, Brisbane, Adelaide, Port, Freo, West Coast, like interstate teams that have that big rivalry. They never want to lose, regardless of the circumstances. So, yeah, I knew it would be a big game. I thought they would come out hard, and I thought they would honestly put pressure on Laird, and I didn't expect them to put out the 133. So, my misjudgment there. Clary's 118. I guess in hindsight, I take that, but no, there was so many big scores to have. We knew Cripps was probably going to go big against Pies, especially with Walsh being that laid out. Wow. Laird, I didn't really respect enough. But yeah, we had a lot of down weeks. So in reality, out of the people I would have potentially captained here, because I'm not going to captain any of the dogs, they're just all over the shop. Never Will Brody. Probably not a Heaney. It would only really be Cripps, Laird, Miller, Mills, Neil that I would have been looking at, I guess. I actually considered Sicily. I think I mentioned that in my last video, that Sicily could be a nice smoky there. But yeah, I was hoping for a bigger score from Miller, but I did think he'd also get a bit of attention. Also, unfortunately, when teams do run over other teams like this, sometimes the superstar isn't needed as much because the rest of the team's just picking up the slack. They're just winning the rest of the ground, so they don't have to step up and do all the work. So yeah, unfortunately, we rode the Miller one there. We ended up losing our leagues by quite a lot, though, so it didn't really matter which captain option we chose. Neil, the 104, and absolutely getting stomped by Melbourne, so yeah, crazy. Cripps with the 121, who was having a very big game and kind of went silent in that second half. He obviously took a big hit where we thought maybe ribs, but obviously was just winded. At least that's what I believe. Yeah, very, very rough for him. Mills, the 93. Whatever. McRae 99, whatever. Kelly 83, whatever. Just very lackluster out of Kelly. I do kind of regret picking up Kelly. McRae definitely paid overs for him to put out this kind of, score at the end of the day. Like, as much as that, you look at that and you think that's still a great score for the end of the year. It really is. But when you're paying $680K at the start of the season for someone who did this, like, kind of hurts. And then Mills, yeah, we know he's prone to up and down games, so 93's honestly not unexpected. Darcy only came out with the 83, unfortunately. Witts with the 90, and then Bont and Dunkley both went massive in that game. Heaney had a great game, obviously. Parker, good game, and Will Brody went massive, and then Lipinski with the 73. So that's how I guess we wrapped up for the last games of the season. I'm just going to quickly look at the leagues just so you can all see, because I guess we were tracking that how I was performing over the week. We know we got knocked out there. This was a minor final, so it doesn't really count. I lost my mates league, unfortunately. Congrats, Darcy. I lost. This is an old school work league. I got absolutely pumped though, so it really didn't matter. Congrats to Simon for that one. I think me and him were played in the finals last year, and I topped him last year, so he got me back this year. And unfortunately lost another minor final, didn't really matter. And then this is the only one I got up in, and another one that I lost here. So this one that I got up in was a fifth place finish at the end of the day. Took out fourth in the final. So yeah, I guess we got up there at least. So didn't lose absolutely all of them. But yeah, jumping back to the team, I guess biggest things from this season. First of all, we kept Lipinski all season. I think that's obviously a huge miss there. The forwards ended up being so much value because of us getting stuff like Liberatore and whatnot in the forward line. Like, if we just look at how players ended at the end of the season and we just jump down to the forward line real quickly, we weren't near the top 6 at the end of the day. Like, we had 5 of them that were quite high up, which is awesome for us. We unfortunately traded fucking Caniglio, who would have been amazing to keep. If we had these 6 That would have been unbelievable. Like Caniglio instead of Liberatore. But we ended up with, Caniglio instead of Lipinski. I wish I had Liberatore. But instead we had Lipinski, who ends up down at 32. Like just 85 average. Basically back towards his starting price by the end of it. Like, really disappointing there. Definitely mistakes keeping him. Definitely mistakes on the aggressive trades I used early, thinking we had more trades and I could play more aggressive, because we all know I wanted Liver towards the end of the season. Hindsight's 2020. In reality, instead of going Parrish, if I went Merritt when he was at a very deflated price, who knew Merritt was, one, going to go off like that, and two, I guess in hindsight, if I did look at me having that extra cash, then I always make the trade up to Liberatore. So I guess in that hindsight, I should have been able to look at that, hey, if I go a cheaper player, then I can up Lipinski. If I go a more expensive player, I have to wear Lipinski all year. And I guess I didn't just think about that, which is unfortunate. But yeah, mids, I mean, look, we're pretty bang on with the mids here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. So top 6 mids, we have them. Obviously, we have forward and defender status here, so they don't really count. But yeah, we do have the top forward and the top 2 defenders. Unfortunately, we go down to Cripps from there, and then we go down to Kelly, who kind of let us down. So they're our other 2. So mids weren't too bad. I think at the end of the day it wasn't too bad, but we could have started maybe other mids, which would have saved us more money, because we could have brought them in a lot cheaper and started other mids that were cheaper, like Laird, things like that, unfortunately. So jumping into, let's say, defenders here. How did we go there? Yeah, Sinclair, Sicily. We only brought Sicily in at the very end though, but we were wearing Hewitt, so it doesn't really matter. Stewart ended up obviously great average, but if you started him, missing 5 games really hurt. Doherty getting all the way through the season and finishing 5th overall, a great starting pick at the end of the day. He also had a massive game against us. Yeah, he would have felt really good to own this year. Saad would have felt great to own this year. Actually, someone I tinkered with last year and then sold very early on because he was garbage. And then you had Dale there as well, so not too bad, I guess, from Dale upwards sort of thing, because if you count out Stewart, who missed games, Hewitt, and even Hearn, who missed games, then Dale kind of slips into 6th. So that's not too bad, but I think Dale was a side trade from us because we had Stewart at that point when he got suspended for 4 weeks. So we ended up moving down to Dale. And then we had Short, who just, unfortunately just fell off towards the back end of the season. To be fair, I don't think there's a problem starting Short because we started him, we got the most value out of him. If you picked him up halfway through because you're like, man, Short's going mental, we got to bring him in, he's going to destroy me, and then you got the end of the season that he put out, that would have been extremely punishing and very disappointing. So starting him was much better than, I guess, picking him up halfway through. So positives there. Crisp, just, super, super disappointing finish to the year, unfortunately. I guess that's looking at averages. At the end of the day, we're looking at total points for players we started. So Crisp, 11th for total points. That's not actually the worst, I guess, because he did play nearly every game. He did play every game, and the only players that are above him are basically all players that played nearly every game. Sard and Houston missing one, so not too bad in that hindsight. And then Jaden Short, obviously we started him, so not too bad in that hindsight either. So players we started, Jordan, Dawson, Short, Crisp, and they all ended up, I mean, we want them at least top 8. 2 of them were at least top 8, and Crisp was just on the cusp. Kind of the cusp, was just outside of it. But yeah, so that's really not too bad if we look at it in that retrospect, which I guess we should because we started them, and that's where their value is most valuable, unlike the players that we can look at average-wise, where when do we bring them in, what was their average moving forward sort of thing. Now we're just going to jump into the team, and we're just going to quickly look at the trades overall. I think if I go through... how do I do this again? It's not edit team. God, I'm being really silly here, guys. So sorry. There's usually a way that you can just look at how everything went previously. Gosh, why am I being so silly here? My brain is list. Yeah, list is totally the... No, that wouldn't be it. History. There we go. So silly of me. So we figured it out, trade history, and this is where it shows all the trades that we played around with at the end of the day. And look, we started off a lot stronger in the sense that the overall position was quite nice here. We were around 6,000, around 2,000, and then we just sort of dropped up and down. It was just not good from that point onwards. We ended up with trades happening around 3, McGovern out, which was fine, Owens out, Cardwell was fine to bring in, didn't really matter. I guess we're not going to really go over all of these, which were the big ones. I mean, Hewitt coming in here actually sucked because then he missed out on so many weeks. And if we could have avoided actually bringing in Hewitt, he would have been better off, much better off. Grundy going out, that's fine. Cherry going out, that was fine. Hayes going out was fine too. We unfortunately lost the Himmelberg pick, who I think will be massive next year for everyone. He should still have that forward DPP, so great one to start. Just because he only made the switch halfway after the bye, so he should have played enough forward that he'll maintain that. So he'll be awesome to pick up, assuming he keeps that role, which I wouldn't see why not. Butters going out was also a mistake at the end of the day. Butters finishing off, where did he finish off? So 16th in forward, which, it's not great, but it was much better than Lipinski. It was like 32nd. So, and yeah, he kind of turned on a bit after these games too. So, bit unfortunate there. Caniglia the next week was the biggest, that was the biggest mistake out of them all. It was the only way I could get Ladin last week, but even if I waited a week on Ladin, it would have been perfectly fine. So I think that was the biggest one. But I think, as I've mentioned before with Caniglia, it was the calculated decision. He had a terrible break even, and with all these players like Bontempelli and Smith and Liberatore moving in, all of a sudden this guy who's sitting at like 7th or 6th is going to move down towards the 9th sort of rate. And if he's going to put out games like he did with the 36, he's not going to be in contention. But then he obviously turned on, the new coach came in, and it was a complete game changer, and he ended up being a massive player for anyone that kept him. So maybe I moved him out preemptively, maybe not. I think, as I mentioned, with his break even as bad as it was and how much cash he was going to drop, and if he ends up a must trade the following week, and you're down 40, 50k, it was too much to give up, I think. So as I said, I think that was the calculated decision. The higher percentage play was to move him on. Unfortunately, he actually came back and punished us super hard. I guess maybe similar to Butters. I think moved Butters out to try and force Darcy in when I did, which I really didn't have to at the end of the day. He ended up with a really bad game that week, and he just kind of ended up stagnating, so it wasn't actually necessary to really force him in. So it kind of sucks that happened. Pendles, we moved to the side for Sinclair. Pendles was a trade that didn't work in for us either. We brought him in much earlier because he was performing really well after the Hall incident. Maybe he shouldn't have started Hall. That was a bit too ballsy of me, I think. Played too high risk, high reward early on with, I think, the starting team, and then bringing Pendles in was not the correct play. As the season went on, he regressed, and we just got punished for it, unfortunately. And then we had the Sidewoods trade him in the buys. Which was fine. Dacos obviously went nuts after the buys. No one's calling that. No one's expecting that. Like, what a finish to the year. Ends up 14th overall in defenders. Like, that's just below Crisp at 11th. Like, man, that is insane. Like, what value Dacos was. And yeah, even moving Cameron on when I did. I could have held Cameron for a bit longer. I ended up bringing in Stewart, who then goes out the following week. Yes, he brings the 170 in for us, but then straight back out because of that play. We brought him in for Hall, which was super greedy of us, who goes straight back out the next week for Dale, and that's where it happened. We held Parrish for so many weeks because we bring him in on round 13 after his bye, and then he got corkied, and they were just like, oh, he will probably play, but he may not, and then they get to the day and it's like, he's not playing. And then the next week, he's probably going to play this week, and then he's not playing. And then the following, he's probably going to, and then he's not playing. And we just lost him for weeks, and then I think he played the round 17, and then didn't play again around 18, and I was just done at that point. So yeah, a lot of things that unfortunately went poorly with our players, and that's just what happens here. Bringing in Parrish was definitely the calculated correct decision. I don't know about Kelly. Kelly was not the play, I think. But then Parrish getting injured was just unfortunate. Like, you can't help that. If I was smart, maybe I move him on the next week thinking, maybe if he's gone for 2 or so weeks, I could be a bit rough, but who expected him to be gone for 3, 4, or whatever he was, and then to come back for like 1 week and then back out? Like, it just, so painful. So yeah, that's where this season, I guess, fell apart. We thought we had really good buys. So the buys, we started off really well. So after round 12, we were positioned 2,000, then we dropped to 5,000, then we finished 4, which is pretty nice. 4,400 from 7,000. We made some treadway, but considering we just so up and down in the early ranks, it really hurt. And then we just sort of stayed the same. And this is when the Parish week started building up, I think, because I played a lot of these weeks with 21 on field because I didn't have a bench. And the season just fell apart, unfortunately. So look, that's, I guess, what happened in the season. What I learnt, I guess, is maybe just not so risky on these injury-prone players. I got too hyped up with the possibility if Hall goes off, I'm just going to make too much bank. So at the same time, picking people like Crisp, who it's like they're so sound, they're going to play every game, but it didn't work out because he just didn't quite have the ceiling, I feel, at the end of the day. So it was hard to say. I think I need to find that happy medium of it's like, look, they're not Crisp, they're not going to play X amount of games in a row and just never be injured, but they're not really soft tissues injuries, and when they miss games, it's not like something that's going to be reoccurring in the future. Things like Rowan Marshall's foot, where it's like that's just going to keep coming up, unfortunately. So yeah, I need to look at players maybe like that are just a bit more, I guess, less injury prone, but still have the ceiling. I think Dawson's going to be a great one for next season, just because, well, obviously doesn't really get injured himself, and he had a good role and a great season overall. Sicily came back with fire, so someone else you got to consider. But I think the things that I've learned this season is maybe not paying up for those 680k mids, because we paid up for 3 of them, even Steele. So there was 4 of them that were super top tier in price. And at the end of the day, Steele, McRae didn't really work out for that price. Miller wasn't so bad, and then Oliver was the only one that met it. So it just wasn't worth it. You could have brought in people like Neil or these other midfielders. Let me just jump to the players again. There were definitely other midfielders around that sort of price. We look at averages here. So you could have started Mills. You could have started Mills, who ended up, much cheaper than them, probably 50k cheaper, and he ended up finishing around the same, higher than 2 of them, and just next to the other one. So I guess percentage-wise, actually, he's quite low on the averages if you compare those, but it's not too bad overall. Clary's the only one that really stayed up to it. Laird was about 50k cheaper and worked out. Neil was always going to be picked up. Petrarca actually finished pretty well overall when you look at this, and Merritt really brought it back at the end of the season. This man is insane. When Parrish isn't in the team, jeez, he's like a must-pick. It's crazy that he finished like this. So I don't know if I'm going to pay up for Laird next season, pay up for Oliver. I mean, I think those 2 are pretty safe in reality, but maybe I'll stick towards more of the 5, 6, 7 in their positions. Maybe we can get them a bit cheaper, and then we can worry about that a bit later on. So I don't know exactly how it will work out. Obviously, we've got to see who's the value, who's the cheaper ones. As I mentioned, Himmelberg's going to be a steal of a player. Even Steele is going to be a steal for his price, I think. I mean, honestly, we've seen what that man did last year. He's just a machine. There's no way we can count him out. So he's someone that's going to be nice and cheap. Walsh had only 2 missed games in the year. Had a lot of up and down games, though, so hard to say. Brayshaw, not too bad. He's coming through, but he's not quite hitting the uber elite level, which is what we want from him. And then Wine's very up and down throughout the year. So Liberatore is going to be, I think, a great one in the forward line to pick up. Then again, so's Dunkley and Bont. So there's plenty of good ones to pick up. Do I want to pay 600 plus K for Bont in the forward line? The answer is yes. You're going to pay that for him in the forward. In the midfield, it's a completely different story because there's so many others you can pick up. But in the forward, he's over and above the rest. If we just quickly jump to that forward line status, 116, next one's 108, and then 105. He is beyond the rest. So Bont, if he has forward line status, which would be great if he did. I haven't looked at the percentages to see if he has it. He's a must-have. Dunkley, you can't look past him ever. He's definitely going to be a must-have in the forward. And then I don't think English will have the forward status. He's going to be purely ruck, so he'll be gone. Liberatore, if he maintains it, he's going to be really nice to have, but not someone you have to start, because this is where we start getting to players that have similar averages. I think you can get away with going a Bont, Dunkley, and then maybe a Himmelberg. That would be really nice. And then maybe rookies from there. And then, we'll fill out the rest of the lines. Usually just 3 premiums in forward, defense, and then we'll see what happens in the mid, depending on the rookies that come through. Rucks, usually we just stick to premiums because the rookies are just never what we quite want. This season it worked out, but we'll see what happens. It's very hard to tell with the Rucks next season. I actually want to look at the Rucks players, because it's going to be very hard to judge the Rucks. It was just all over the shop. At the end of the day, Witts ended up with the most total points because Gorn missed 2 games. So Witts was the greatest starting ruck you could have had this season. Amazing for anyone that did start him. If you were me that started Darcy and then flipped to Marshall because of everything that's happening, then that's terrible. But big percentage differences as well. I think even with Gorn declining, oh man, But Grundy will be back next year. Where is he going to be looking at? Is he going to be 100% fit? Is he going to get moved on? Because we've all talked about, Collingwood potentially moving on his contract. I mean, we have Cameron and Cox, who kind of did amazing and got us all the way to top 4. So, but Grundy is a superstar of a player, but he does bring up a big salary cap. Moving him out, do we finally get a key forward that we need? Like, don't get me wrong, I love Jamie Elliott. I love Myercheck. Johnson's actually been a superstar for us. I love our pressure forwards coming out of, McQuarrie and Ginnivan. But it's one of those things where we don't really have that key forward. We don't have that Tom Lynch. We don't have that Tom Hawkins. We don't have that Tex Walker. We don't have that big forward that you can just kick to, and they're just so much pressure. Like, don't get me wrong, Cox rolls down there and sort of tries to do that, and same with Cameron, but they're not forward crafted players. They're definitely rucks, I think. I definitely think Cameron's more of a ruck. Cox is actually perfectly fine in the forward, but it would be nice to have another forward down there that's a big key forward. And when Cox goes down there and he takes maybe the best defender, or if he gets stuck with the second, all of a sudden, I feel like we have so much forward pressure there, and then that's when Ginnivan and Elliott can really go to work, McQuarrie can go to work, and Myercheck all of a sudden ends up on the third best tall. That man has to play against the best key defender nearly every week, and he still is a machine. Like, if we can get someone else in that forward line, I could just see us really taking over. Saying that, as I said, Johnson's been really good for us, so if he keeps up his stuff, that would be cool. I don't know where else we'd grab. Maybe some of the midfielder or something, because we're a bit lackluster in the midfield. We definitely don't win the centre ball. We saw it in the stats against Carlton. We got crushed on clearances. We got crushed on contested possessions, but we just managed to hold out and win regardless. And that's basically how it was all season for Collingwood. They just got crushed in all lanes, but still won games. So if we could get some sort of dominant mid, or, as I said, dominant key forward with the Grundy salary cap moving him on, that would be amazing. As I said, though, I love Grundy, so I hate the idea of moving him on. For a super coach point of view, I think it would be amazing to get Grundy on another team. Like, wow, that would be crazy. But yeah, if we're going to keep Grundy, it really messes with the Darcy, Cameron, and Cox dynamic, I feel, and I don't know if we need all three of those bigs at the end of the day. I understand that I'm saying let's get a key forward instead, but they're not key. They're forward / rucks at the end of the day. They do fine in the forward line for people who predominantly play around the ground and in the ruck line, where if we actually had a key forward that was purely key forward and was really good at the key forward craft, like, I feel like that would be amazing sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, look, that's just around a point of view from me. Obviously, many will probably disagree. As I said, I hate the idea of losing Grundy, but like the doors it could open because of his huge salary cap, man, that would be amazing. But yeah, we made top 4 at the end of the day. We kind of did it to a degree without Grundy, so that's where the question comes in. But as I said, I don't want to lose the man, so I don't know. It's hard to say, guys. It's very hard to say. Obviously, he hasn't had the greatest season last season, or even the half of the season he was here. He had like maybe 1 or 2 big games. So, look, if he could come back and be that Grundy that was dominant when Collingwood was, top tier team, then awesome. But it's just so hard to see that at the moment because he just has been a bit down. So yeah, anyway, that's my recap, I guess, for the season, guys. Just random banter and all that. I really appreciate anyone that's stuck around for me just jabbering on here. One that's been to all of my videos, that have watched them, even not all of them, just here and there. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate all of those that have subscribed. I appreciate, just being on this journey with you guys. Now, look, I'm probably going to jump off. I mean, look, if you guys are interested, I'm probably not going to do any videos between now and till sort of the start of the new season, and we start sort of crafting teams and whatnot and what we're looking at. So probably won't see me for the next few months. If you are interested in tuning in, I do sometimes stream on Twitch. Look, it's a tiny Twitch channel. I have very minimal followers at best. I just jump on and play games with my friends usually, chuck on the Twitch. If I am playing by myself, I love to chuck on the Twitch and talk to anyone that is in the chat. I'm probably going to put it on now, put on some League of Runeterra, play that with, just play that and chill. Maybe chill in Discord with some of my mates, have a bit of banter. Someone jumps in the chat, have a bit of a chat with you. So yeah, feel free to tune in there. It's just Laverne's on Twitch TV. So I'll just bring it up real quickly for everyone. Twitch TV /Laverne's. And if we jump in under here, you'll see that this is the page, guys. So yeah, yeah, cool. If you feel free to tune in or just come chill, talk to me, give me a discussion, feel free to. As I said, also in the comments, feel free to jump down there. Tell me how your team went. Tell me how your season ended up, what rank you finished, if you had a good, bad season. Just tell me about it, guys. I'd love to hear it. And, it's sad to be having the end of the Supercoach talk, but I'm so excited for finals, and I hope it's as fantastic as the regular season. So thanks again, everyone. I appreciate it so much, and I'll catch you all next year. Peace.